1 minute. Thirty seconds. Fifteen seconds. Five seconds.
Opinions expressed are those of the program host and guest and not WSTU. WSTU does not endorse any products mentioned. Any reproduction or retransmission of this broadcast is strictly prohibited without written consent of WSTU.
The Treasure Coast longest-running local talk radio show is on the air. The Treasure Coast Forum, brought to you by... Get interested, get educated, get involved, and give us a call with your opinions at 220-9788. And here's your host of the Treasure Coast Forum.
Hello, welcome back to the WSTU 1450, the Treasure Coast Forum. I'm your host, Jenna Renzel, and I am joined today by...
Cassidy Fowler.
And Talia Lipman.
All right.
Nice job, Jenna.
Okay, very good. Very well done. Hey. All right. Yeah, so for our listeners that don't know, we are actually doing this show remotely and to stay socially distanced. And I'm here in the studio manning the equipment all by myself.
Yeah, so it's hard to give out the cues.
So and the timing is sometimes a little bit stilted, but but we're making progress. We're working through it. Yeah.
Working through it.
Yeah. All right. So we should tell our listeners this is a youth and government show, and and these are students from the Martin County High School system, and I think we have actually 2 high schools represented in today's show. You want to?
Frank, I hate to burst your bubble,
no,
but
South Fork.
We do not know, but yeah.
Last week it was
we'll
all
have representation from
last week it was all county.
Yeah.
Oh,
it was all county all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So over the summer and next year, you'll have representations by both 2 schools because of Jenna and Jillian. And then hopefully you can have some guest on from Jensen Beach High School.
I would love that. Yeah.
Up over there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And so basically with Youth in Government and the radio show, we attempt to discuss ideas and debate ideas rather than people. That is the entire concept. And that's a famous motto within the Youth in Government program. And we're just trying to convey that here in the radio show. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Jenna, do you want to start us off with our first main topic?
So we will be starting off with the Black Lives Matter protests and the very controversial aspect that goes into this idea. And this all started with George Floyd's death and the reaction that was brought up by this. And you see all the different protests going on and all the efforts to make a difference and have more of the Black lives and other colored lives be seen more and be equal.
And I think it's important to note that this movement wouldn't have started without social media, because it really started to kick off after the graphic videos of Floyd being choked, just gained surface on social media. So personally, do you guys agree with me in the fact that it probably wouldn't be as big as a movement if social media didn't exist?
Yeah, definitely.
Because oh wait, yeah, keep going, Jenna.
I was gonna say, with more people posting it and more people being able to see it, it's just spreading and being more known.
Mm-hmm. And I see personally in some of the protests, more of the people turning out to the protests are younger individuals that are, it seems like for the first time getting politically involved. And yeah, so I think that's a good thing that this has brought out some the younger generation's involvement into just the social world, because before nobody really commented on I don't even know how to describe it, commented on bad acts or police brutality. But now that this has come to surface, it seems like everyone, especially on social media, is posting about it.
Yeah.
I have a question. Is social media commenting on the 47-year veteran police chief that was murdered while trying to protect a storefront for a business owner?
No, I haven't seen anything like that. Basically, things that are going on Instagram, mainly on Instagram, include just videos of police brutality, of police misusing their power against primarily people of color. So it definitely, I would say that social media is presenting a pretty biased view, even though it is a view that needs to be seen.
Right.
Wait, what?
A one-sided story.
Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah. So they're totally just how do I word it? They're bashing the police completely and convincing the younger generations that ideas such as limiting the funding for police would be good, even though you don't really think about the logistics of it, especially on social media. You don't really get that much information. You just get the surface level of whoever is posting it, whatever they want you to see. And that is the problem with social media, because there are many things that aren't exposed. Only one side of the story is exposed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about the police chief that was was murdered while trying to protect life and property? He was a black man, by the way.
Well, I don't know too much on it, but any murder I don't think is justified. So,
and if he was just doing his job and trying to just do the best he can, then it obviously wasn't right. But
nobody's protesting to give some justice to his family, though, right?
Yeah. Well, the thing with the protests, it's almost become like a bandwagon movement in the fact that you have to join or you're seen as racist.
Right.
That's what I've seen on social media, especially with people. So there's been this big thing that happened about a week ago where everyone was posting on Instagram a photo of just a blank black screen. And this was in an attempt to block out all other posts so that everyone could only see black screens when they went onto Instagram, so that it could just, I don't even know. Jenna, what do you think was the meaning behind that?
Just to have everybody see the support that is getting fed into these protests, and just for everybody to acknowledge that it's a very big issue and that more people are involved than you would think.
Yeah.
I have another question. Are they talking in these social media groups or on Twitter or Instagram? Are they talking about the fact that more white individuals were killed in police custody than black?
I have actually seen a statistic of that on social media, but I feel like it's
getting lost, all right, in the conversation.
Totally are getting lost, especially even on that day that everyone was posting the black screens. The problem with that is that it was blocking out important news that people were posting about the movement and about George Floyd. So their act of posting the black photo actually took away from some important information that could have
Right.
been broadcasted. Because the problem with our generation that I've also noticed is that we don't really go out and look for the further details. We just believe what we see automatically, especially on social media.
It's in the news. It must be true. If it's on the
Yeah.
computer, it must be true, right?
Mm-hmm.
And many people
But-
aren't pushing the against the protests and the police side of it, because then they would just get pushed down and they would just be seen as against the people
Hmm.
and
Mhm.
rape, like Cassidy was saying.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
So,
why
Yeah,
more
it's-
people
so
are
really, it's an
supporting.
assault on freedom of speech, though, right? If you have a dissenting point of view, and it may be a legitimate dissenting point of view, nobody wants to hear it. So you either go along with the herd, or you are ostracized.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly what is happening. Like, exactly. Give me 5 seconds.
Yeah, I got an Amber Alert at noontime today. Did you guys get that on your phone as well?
Yes.
Yes. I was actually going to bring that up
I-
for the good, the bad, and the ugly, but
All right. Well, we'll do that then. Then we'll. All right, because we don't have the opportunity to do too much show prep collectively. we do it independently, so we sometimes overlap. But yeah, okay, very good. So I think it's important because it's community information we should share.
Mhm.
It's good.
Yeah.
We'll bring it up later in the show.
Yeah.
What else is next?
Well, we can keep going on
Okay.
on that
Sure.
conversation point.
All right.
I feel like the protests are doing some good as long as they don't turn violent.
Yeah, there are a lot of cities and other people changing and cutting funding, and changing, and they're taking down the statutes,
Mhm.
and if there's a Confederate general name on a sign, they're trying to take everything down and just make all the protests and people damaging the cities happy.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So how do you feel about that?
I think that if it's gonna ease the protesters and make them stop rioting and stop disrupting the community, then what's the difference in taking down one statue or changing the name of a sign?
So, but I mean, where does it end? I think there's a potential domino theory that goes with that. Is if somebody is allowed to take away one thing that you allow, then they say, well, maybe I can try this. And before you know it, there's more things that are, I don't think people are going to be pacified or satisfied. And the other thing that's really being lost in the conversation, and I think is important to note, is when you have historical relics like these things that are there, they're not there necessarily to honor these people in history, but it's to remind us of the history. And if you don't know where we went wrong, we are doomed to repeat the same mistakes.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Yeah, I think that is a very good point. And I've seen, I believe in England, actually, I don't know exactly where, but a statue honoring a general, some sort of, I presume, racist general. So a group of people threw this statue into the water, and the town collected the statue and is now trying to put it back together to put into a museum so that the memory isn't forgotten.
Correct.
So I think that's a good thing. But maybe with that thought, maybe these statues need to be moved to museums so that they don't seem as though they are a pedestal for this person rather than a piece of history.
Yeah.
And it's perfectly fine to have that conversation. I think the erasure, the elimination of things that today we find objectionable.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know what tomorrow brings. What else are they going to find objectionable? if you have red hair, that could be considered objectionable. And
Talia has red hair.
Yeah. That's what I was
They were red hair.
I'm just, it's just a, an example, right? So where
Yeah.
do you draw the line when society all of a sudden decides that whatever is your normal is no longer considered normal by somebody else's standards? And if you
Mhm.
don't toe the line, you're going to be in trouble. I think that's not really what I think we signed up for when we created the United States of America.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
So that's
I mean,
that's
I
my
do
2 cents
support
worth.
a little bit of their change. Like this country does need a little bit of change, but I see what you're saying about how far will this change go, and how far will it affect us.
Yeah,
At what
if you have
point
the
will
if you have
everyone
the
be satisfied?
right, if you have the notion that okay, somebody is breaking the law, but if we allow them to do this, they'll go away and everything will be okay again. That's just that history has not proven that to be a legitimate concept that works out. It doesn't work out well because once somebody finds out they can break the law and get away with it, whatever that norm is, and then they'll find another thing that they'll want to exploit. Because let's face it, people that do these things, they create their own environment of power. And the one thing that power abhors is a vacuum. So they have to either increase their power or give it over to somebody else. And they don't want to do that. So they have to find another thing to do. And then that's another privilege or right or opportunity that becomes lost. I think that's things that we all need to consider as a society. We have to be tolerant. And tolerance is that when we see something that is a reminder in history that was wrong, we don't say, well, we can say that, yes, this was wrong because this was in 1865. And we are now in the year 2020, and we are more evolved, let's say, in our thinking. But this was the thinking back then, and we have to understand it. We have to know where we were so that we know where we want to be.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I think that was well said.
Occasionally, I have my moments.
Yes.
Have you guys heard about Minnesota trying to dismantle and replace their police department?
Yes.
I don't know how well that would work.
Yeah. The actual logistics of it. Because I feel like there has to be some sort of authority within society or else we fall into chaos. And if you were to put together a neighborhood force, what actual authority do they have over a regular person?
Yeah. Like, are the people going to listen to other people like them if there's nothing that's going to come out of it? Or
Yeah, I feel like somebody that's committing a crime wouldn't listen to just another civilian.
Yeah.
Plus, how does even crime work at that point? Are there still prisons? Like, how does the entire system work now that there aren't police? And then what happens to those police that are out of a job? What happens then?
Yeah.
So, yeah, a lot of lives can be impacted if that actually comes to fruition. But
the problem isn't the police department itself, like the laws and stuff. It's just a few police members and like around the world are thinking they're above the law and they're not following what is rightfully like supposed to happen. So they're trying to like dismantle it, but that's not the problem.
Yeah, that's not the problem. I heard that in defunding the police, I know some cities are talking about defunding the police, and their idea behind that is to allocate funds towards different areas within the society, like education and things like that. So the crime rate would naturally go down, because you see in a more educated, more wealthy area, crime is lower. So
Yeah.
with the thought of allocating more funds towards things that would stimulate a society rather than, I don't even know. What were you going to say, Jenna?
That's a good idea. That's,
Mhm.
yeah.
So
I've
what
seen
will
that,
actually happen?
yeah. And you can see that with companies too. Like a lot of large corporations like Amazon and Microsoft are starting to stop their sales to the police departments,
Mhm.
and like with their tech and stuff.
Yeah,
which
and I
is-
don't think that that's the right move, because not all police officers are bad. You can't automatically, because some police officers make mistakes, you can't villainize the entire force.
Yeah. It's just like race too. Like not all people of color are bad, and
Yeah.
there are a handful of them that make the others seem like worse.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, it's a really difficult conversation to have, because there's just so many, I don't even know, just morals.
A lot of different rabbit holes, right? People can fall.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And it seems like we almost are forced to pick a side behind either the police or the Black Lives Matter movement, and both of them have their validity and have their reasons, but there are bad people within both groups.
Yeah.
Like with do you know information on what is Antifa?
Mm-hmm.
Frank,
Yes.
do you know much about that?
Antifa?
Yeah, could you explain who they are and why they're deemed a terrorist group now?
Well, they're really their Antifa or Antifa is supposed to be anti-fascist, is what that's supposed to be, kind of a shorthand explanation. But they're anything but anti-fascist, and they are a very strict group that has their own pronouncements and denouncements. And again, if you don't follow their way, then they use generally violence against you in order to encourage you to either submit to their willingness, their way of doing things. So it's that's why they're getting tagged as a terrorist group, because they're really using terror tactics.
And how does this all relate to the Black Lives Matter movement? How do they get involved?
They've kind of locked arms with them in order to embrace. So people that embrace the whole Black Lives Matter concept are then this other group comes in. They go, hey, we can teach you. We can show you how to rob and vandalize and riot and think. We can set you up with all that. And so that is really how they are. It's kind of like the military wing of a concept, if you will.
All right.
Not necessarily a good idea, but it's essentially what they've kind of latched onto.
No, turning violent hasn't done
Right.
much. It's only caused destruction within your own community. I don't see the purpose behind that.
But again, it's a power thing. It's for in order for them to garner and gain authority and power on whatever level.
But they're trying to solve violence
No,
and
they're
depression with violence and destruction.
Yeah, that's not how you do it. No. No. But you go through a democratic process of which you folks are learning in youth and government on how to legislate and how to pass bills and how to make government responsive to people's wants, needs, hopes, and desires, right?
And that kind of connects to what I was trying to say earlier, and the fact that this entire situation has made people more politically aware and more involved. Like, people are now going out and signing petitions and donating. But There is one thing that I'll bring up in the next segment relating to donating to the Black Lives Matter movement. And
All right. Are we going to disconnect and then reconnect again, or
yes, we are going to do that.
Okie dokie. Alrighty. Well, very good. We'll catch you on the other side of this break, and we'll look forward to more of Treasure Coast Forum when we return. One minute, 30 seconds. Thirty seconds. Ten seconds.
Welcome back to WSTU 1450, the Treasure Coast Forum. And now we're in our next segment, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Well
So-
done. Good segment. Segue.
Nice.
Yes.
There we go. So for the good, we have this teen that was missing earlier today in Marin County. There was an Amber Alert. I'm sure many of you had gotten that alert on your phone. She went missing actually last night in Hope Sound, Florida, and she was found a few hours ago. So very good thing that she was found.
Good.
She was only 13 years old, so
Oh,
she's back
oh.
in the care of her parents now. So
Oh,
that's
good.
our good. Yep.
Good. Congratulations,
And
Martin
then-
County.
Yeah, Marin County. And then for the bad,
Oh.
there was a bubble tea accident where a teen fell into a coma after having 2 drinks of bubble tea every day for a month. So if you're unaware of what bubble tea is, it's also known as pearl milk tea or boba, and it is a drink that contains tapioca pearls, and it's very, very unhealthy. Doctors discovered that there are nearly 100 grams or 25 packets of sugar in each drink that the teen was
Whoa.
consuming.
Whoa.
So, yeah,
Diabetic coma.
literally fell into a diabetic coma caused by hyperglycemia.
Exactly.
So,
Wow.
mhm. So this is all just a warning to you folks to not drink 2 cups of bubble tea every single day for a month, or else you too could fall into a diabetic coma.
Wow. Yikes.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
So
so
that was
that's
the bad.
news.
Okay.
That was bad. And for the ugly, what I was going to bring up last segment is how the donations for the Black Lives Matter movement, where exactly they go.
Hmm.
So this is a pretty ugly topic that hasn't really reached the news yet and has only been found in small Reddit pools, but I have done the research and I've found the evidence for it. So for a little explanation, the Black Lives Matter movement is asking for donations on their website. And the problem is they use this company called Act Blue to collect donations. And Act Blue spends the money that they receive from Black Lives Matter in not the most relevant way to the movement. So basically, the corporation. Wait, let me screen share. Actually, the guests won't be able to see, right? Not on the YouTube live, Frank.
No, unfortunately, no. YouTube's not connected to my laptop.
Oh well, I'll show you guys anyway, just so you can see the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So, right there, I don't even know how to explain it, but this is the 2020 cycle, and if you go down here, you can see the top vendors or recipients of the Act Blue money and who receives the most amount of expenditures. So, number 1 on the list is the Bernie 2020 campaign. Number 2 is the Biden for President campaign. Number 3 was the Elizabeth Warren campaign. Number 4 is the Pete for America campaign. So we see all of these are different campaigns for Democratic candidates for president, mainly. And it's interesting to see how a majority of the money from Act Blue goes towards these different.
Right. So it's not being purposed in the way that people are offering the money to the movement, right?
No, not at all. So I'm sure this will blow up in the news in the coming days, but just some bad news for everyone out there donating. There are many other ways that you can donate to this fund. I just wouldn't recommend going through the Black Lives Matter website because the money could potentially go towards something that
So the
you
money
don't
gets
support.
pirated away for other uses, for political purposes. All right.
So yeah, that was our new segment, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Well done.
Thank you.
Okay. What else? What do we got next? We got about 5 minutes before our next break.
We can go into how with these protests, as more people are gathering, they have stopped worrying about the coronavirus.
So you noticed
and
that, right?
how-
So, yeah.
Yeah. And how big of an issue that was until people had something else to focus on.
hmm And the news
And-
too. The media is not even talking about coronavirus like they were. I mean, they're talking about.
I remember researching for the radio show a couple weeks ago when this entire situation wasn't even relevant, and all of the headliners on all of the news websites were relating to the coronavirus. But now I see barely any relating to the coronavirus, and almost all of them relating to Black Lives Matter and the protests and George Floyd.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm, mhm.
And
But
many people are really worried about a second wave happening.
Right.
Oh,
With
I totally
protests,
think that there
yeah.
will be. Yeah, because if you have seen protesters, they're right next to each other, definitely not 6 feet away. Some of them aren't even wearing masks.
Yeah.
And the fact that 35% of those who fall ill to the coronavirus don't even show symptoms, and that they are asymptomatic and still could spread the sickness, it's just not a good situation.
Mm-hmm.
And there are other ways to support the cause rather than going out and protesting, even though we are seeing results from those who are protesting. Like, for example, the police officers who were arrested for George Floyd's death, the main police officer who committed the crime had his charge raised to second-degree murder, while the others had been charged in aiding to his death. So
Mhm.
that potentially couldn't have even happened if these protests didn't happen. So yeah, that's some good things. That's an example of something good that has come out of the protest.
Yeah.
But who knows? We could all fall ill to the coronavirus in the next 2 weeks. We don't know yet. We'll see.
Yeah. And they are
Well,
working on a vaccine.
They are. Mhm.
Yeah, I saw Moderna in Massachusetts is working on a vaccine, and they're supposedly on the phase 3 of the vaccine,
Mhm.
which is trying to just stop the symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it's a virus and you can't fully cure a virus, but you can cure the symptoms.
You can, yeah. Much like an aspirin will help you with a headache, right? It
Yeah.
just kind of makes you feel better. Mhm.
But the symptoms are what's like hospitalizing people. So if they can kind of ease that a little bit,
Mhm,
then
mhm.
that would help a lot with the death rate.
Mm-hmm.
But they need to keep working on the vaccine, and hopefully it will develop more and they'll be able to distribute it and save more people.
Mm-hmm. I wonder how, Frank, do you remember the tomato vaccine that we were talking about a couple shows back?
No, refresh my memory.
Oh, so basically there was this vaccine in the works down in Mexico where a college was working to put, I don't know the exact details, but they would basically make the vaccine
Oh,
a tomato
this
or
was
some
a
sort of fruit.
right. It was a bio. It was a bio process, right? Where people
Yes.
would eat the food, and the food would pass on the antibodies to help folks to not get a virus, or if they do get sick, their body's going to automatically fight the virus, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, and this would be good for underdeveloped nations who don't have the infrastructure to be able to distribute shots, because usually shots have to be put in a careful environment or a very exact environment with certain temperatures.
Yeah,
and
refrigeration,
humidity.
that sort of thing.
Yep.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
So I wonder what's going on with that. That I just brought that up because just to remind us all that could also be a potential vaccine.
And I think that's I think that's a wonderful idea, and it's worth
Mhm.
pursuing, especially for third world countries. And it's just kind of easy way to distribute, vaccines or vaccine like method, right?
Mm-hmm.
Very good.
Yep.
Well, we're going to let Rocky and Bullwinkle give us our parting comments before we go out on break, and then we'll be right back.
Time to meet Mr. Peabody. And now,
Hey, Rocky, watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat.
again,
Nothing up my sleeve. Presto! No doubt about it. I gotta get another hat.
now here's something we hope you'll really like.
Two minutes. One minute. Thirty seconds. $13 seconds. 5 seconds.
It's jungle out there, disorder and confusion everywhere. No one seems to care. Well, I do. Hey.
All right.
Talia, come on.
All right. So that is the theme song from a TV show called Monk. And it's all about a germaphobe detective. It's a hilarious TV show. You can probably watch it on YouTube or Hulu, and it's a fun show, especially right now. If you're stuck at home, you can watch that and feel good about all the germaphobe things that we have to do.
Yep, definitely. I feel like I'm a germaphobe now for sure because of the coronavirus.
Oh my God.
I can't go in and out of the store without wearing a mask and gloves sometimes and hand sanitizer.
So
every time you walk by a sink, you wash your hands.
Right.
And,
Right. So when I come home from being outside, I have to take my shoes off and have a floor mat, right?
Oh,
So
yeah, that's an important thing to take your shoes off.
Take the shoes off right away, and then I flip them upside down, and my wife sprays a disinfectant on the bottoms of the shoes because germs could be traveled in, so that stops there. Then the hand sanitizer. Then I go and I change out of my street clothes to the house clothes, and the street clothes stay in a special place in the house on the patio, and it's a whole process.
That sounds
I
ridiculous.
live with a female monk. It's hilarious. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But anyways, we're both disease free, so there you go.
It's working.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's working.
Mhm.
And it actually is really important to take your shoes off when you walk inside because it's so easy to track something in. Because if you think about it, if somebody's coughing, it's going to go onto the floor, and then you're going to step on it, and you're going to unknowingly bring it into your house all over your floor. And if you have a animal, then they could easily, rub in it. I don't even know. But yeah.
Yeah. Roll around on it. Yes. Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah. Sure. There you go.
Yeah.
All right. So we have under 10. We got about 9 minutes left. What do we want to cover?
We can continue with the coronavirus and how whether or not they're going to reopen schools in
Yeah.
August.
Yeah. Good
They were
topic.
talking about reopening schools, and they were saying if they did, they would have to have precautions like changing class size or recess time and like lunchtime, and then especially with the busing system.
Right.
And
I heard
because
that the lunchroom may not be a functional thing, but they may bring the lunches right to the classroom, and you would sit at your desk and then have your lunch there.
yeah,
That's an option that I think some schools are looking at.
yeah.
Oh, it's so sad.
If they-
I'm not in high school anymore.
That's a big
'cause
part of
I'm-
your social networking, right?
Yeah, especially for kids in IB who don't really get to socialize with the other kids except for during lunch.
Yeah.
I saw that they might do a thing which they used to do back in the day, which is where the teacher moves from class to class rather than the student.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
So that could be, I don't know how that would work because then you would have to be in a classroom with kids that are all at your exact level in all classes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So whoever would be stuck organizing that schedule, oof, that would be tough. Organize all the kids in the room.
They were also throwing up the idea if they don't go back to school, they could do part-time going back to school. Some kids would be online, or some classes that don't take labs, like chemistry and physics and biology. You have to do labs a certain hour every week.
Right.
So classes, for example, English and history, you could do online.
Mm-hmm.
So they can do like half and half.
Gosh,
that would thin out the student body within the school. That's really what you're talking about them trying to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That was like the ideas they were throwing up.
Mm-hmm. I wonder how it'll impact like after school activities like sports and clubs.
Yeah.
Like with youth and government, will they be able to hold the state assembly or the FDC conference?
Yeah, ours was canceled this past year.
Yep, and they had to hold it remotely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because we were working on it all year, like our bills and memos.
Yeah.
Just to have it be canceled.
Yeah, that was really sad. And since it was my senior year, I never got to go to the Capitol one last time.
Oh.
Yeah. It's okay though. I'll somehow make it back there.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe you'll make it back there as a representative or senator.
You know, I don't know if I'm gonna go down that field.
You never know. You might just get the political bug, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Jenna, what do you have relating? I remember before the show we were talking a little bit about what our hurricane season could look like this year.
Yeah, it's looking off, or it's starting with a very fast start, and we are around 10 days into our hurricane season, and we're already on our third storm name, which is remarkably fast, and I don't think it's ever happened. And they say it's because of water temperatures warming, and then also like surface temperatures warming.
Oh no.
Mixed with like vertical wind patterns and the different patterns that push the hurricanes to land and make them form bigger.
Yeah.
But it's a very big problem if this storm season continues to grow like how it is.
Yeah, I remember seeing a prediction that this was going to be a very big storm season, very tough. So might actually be that way, but hopefully it isn't. And I don't know how we would react, like deal with the hurricane and also deal with social distance.
And no power.
No power. Oh well, yeah.
Oof.
We've been through that.
Yeah.
And with the hurricane season, more people run to the store and they start buying stuff, and we already have a shortage of what we can buy.
Is that still implemented, this shortage?
Yeah, you go to stores and it's like one roll of toilet paper per family, and you see
gosh.
Well, not a package, not a roll, but a whole package, right?
But yeah.
Oh gosh.
It's not the Soviet Union.
No, we're not. We're
not there yet.
Anything.
All right. So we got about 2-3 minutes left.
Come on, Jenna, pull through.
Yeah. We can go back to I saw another controversial topic about the Black Lives Matter and the taking a knee, and how the women's soccer league is saying it's okay if their players are taking a knee because it's saying they're going against the police brutality.
I feel like we should just create a new thing instead of taking a knee.
Yeah.
Plus, also, what's going on with the soccer league? Are they even having games right now?
That's a good point.
I can't see how it would be relevant unless they were having games. Well, it's still relevant, but
Major League Baseball has started their draft yesterday. The Detroit Tigers picked up a first baseman on the first round of the draft because they were the worst team in baseball last year, so they got the first round pick. And but the MLB still does not have a contract with the ball players, so they don't have a short season schedule established just yet. So that'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, and are any sports seasons on pause right now that are supposed to be going? I believe
most of them are. I think basketball is talking about coming back, and they're just trying to work out the schedule and finish that up, and it'll be more like a playoff schedule more than anything else.
Yeah, but many of the sports aren't able to come back, which is pretty sad.
Yeah, but basketball will be playing to an empty house.
Yeah, that's going to be
really weird.
Yeah, especially for the players seeing, because I feel like the audience provides so much spirit.
Oh, the energy. Oh, yeah. They feed off that energy. You bet.
That can totally change the outcome of a game. And without having that, it's almost like having a practice game. It's not legitimate.
It doesn't feel like it. Yeah, you're exactly right. Like a scrimmage. Indeed. Yes. All right. Well, no scrimmaging around here. We give you all the facts as we find them. We thank you for listening and being a part of this show. And we thank our students from Youth in Government. And we thank you, the listening audience. And we'll be back again next week right here on Treasure Coast Forum. Thanks for listening.